Of course, this is not just shameful behavior by President Trump. It is a shame in front of the world. It is an embarrassment in front of the world. And let's go to Clarissa Ward right now, who is in London. Clarissa, what is the reaction from world leaders to this? Let's start with American allies. What are they saying?
Well, I think there's a mixture of shock, disbelief, horror. We are hearing very strong words coming from world leaders like Boris Johnson, the prime minister here in the United Kingdom. He said disgraceful scenes in the U.S. Congress. The United States stands for democracy around the world, and it is now vital that there should be a peaceful and orderly transfer of power. That sentiment also echoed by the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who said Canadians are deeply disturbed and saddened by the attack on democracy in the United States, our closest ally and neighbors. Violence will never succeed in overruling the will of the people. Democracy in the U.S. must be withheld, and it will be. And we're definitely seeing as well, Jake, the gloves are coming off. If any one of the U.S.'s allies had tried to adhere to diplomatic norms, had tried to avoid calling President Trump out by name and laying this blame at his feet, we're now seeing a change in that, where he's seeing the Irish foreign minister saying a deliberate assault on democracy by a sitting president and his supporters. The world is watching, Jake.
Of course, it's not just our allies that are watching, it's our enemies as well. Countries that do not stand for democracy, do not stand for human rights, do not stand for the freedoms that America tries to serve as the shining city on a hill, as Ronald Reagan once said. What are they saying about this, those who wish the United States ill?
Well, it's interesting. Quite a few of them are still remaining circumspect at this stage. Presumably, they don't want to be seen to be gloating. But what I found very interesting, Turkey, which is not necessarily an enemy of the U.S. or anything like that, though there have certainly been strong disagreements, particularly in recent years, with President Erdogan at the helm. They released a statement saying, "We invite all parties in the U.S. to temperance and common sense. We believe that the U.S. will overcome this domestic political crisis and maturity, and we recommend that our citizens in the U.S. stay away from crowded places." Jake, this is exactly the kind of language that we are used to reading in a U.S. press release to American citizens who might be in a city in the Middle East during a crisis or a riot of this nature. It is astonishing to see this sort of language being used by a country like Turkey, warning its citizens of the dangers of walking around the United States Capitol.
All right, Clarissa Ward in London, thank you so much. That is so discouraging to hear, but it is not unexpected. We've been talking about this now for weeks. How can the United States, and look, the United States does not always live up to the standards that we hold for ourselves or that we impose upon the world, but how can the United States issue a statement about an election in Belarus or an election in Venezuela when the United States is experiencing this right now because of President Trump and his enablers?
Yeah, I mean, look, the United States is not, as you said, always, right about everything or always, doing the right thing in accordance with our values. That's clearly not the case. But in this particular case, when it comes to the fundamentals of democracy, from beginning to end, this has been an embarrassing chapter in American history. From the point at which President Trump, even before the votes were counted, was calling for the count to stop because he didn't want, additional votes to be counted that might come in for Joe Biden, to the point where he continued to talk about fraudulent votes that he just claimed were fraudulent because they weren't for him. These are all things that in another country would be signs of, a democracy that was not strong, that was failing, that was backsliding. And here we are now with our Capitol building having been vandalized by violent mobs. That's something we have not seen. We have not seen that in this country in a very, very long time. We have never seen American citizens charging our Capitol and barging in and putting lawmakers in a lockdown. And I think the significance of that is obviously going to be historic, but it's going to have lasting impacts on the United States and our ability as a nation to export democracy around the world, which is a key pillar of our foreign policy.
A horrible day for America, a horrible day because the President of the United States is not able to acknowledge reality and because he has inspired his followers to commit an act, many acts of domestic terrorism.